The following podcast contains movie spoilers and mature content, including graphic descriptions of violence. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome to Opening Kill, the podcast that dives deep into the chilling world of horror films. Every Thursday, we explore a different movie, from cult classics to modern masterpieces, uncovering behind-the-scenes secrets, analyzing themes, and sharing fun facts about your favorite horror films. Join us as we chat with filmmakers and fellow horror film fans to celebrate the fear in cinema. And now, the hosts of Opening Kill, Michael Doran and Brian O'Connor.
Hello, I am Brian O'Connor, and wait a minute, you're not Michael Doran.
I'm not.
You're much prettier than Michael Doran.
Oi, let's not be mean. Michael's very pretty.
Welcome, Shay Astor, Opening Kill research assistant, coming to us all the way from Arizona. Thank you for sitting in this week. Michael is off. It's great to have you, Shay.
Oh, it's wonderful to be here, Brian. Happy Friday the 13th. A little late.
A week late. You know, we were supposed to get this done last week, and circumstances dictated otherwise. And Michael's taken a couple of weeks off, so he'll be back with us soon. But in the meantime, I'm so pleased to have you hang out with us and do Opening Kill. So how are you? How are things in Arizona?
Hot.
I was going to say, I think the weather in Arizona is probably a bit different than here in Southern Oregon right now. But yeah, for sure.
I'm not used to it still. I've been here for a little bit and we've hit the hundreds and it's not going down yet. My car overheated the other day.
Oh.
It's all starting up again.
Okay.
I'm not ready.
Yeah, you should come home is what I'm thinking, but you know.
Agreed.
Yeah. Well, you've picked a great week to join the show because we are doing basically the first movie in one of my favorite horror film franchises. In fact, it is my favorite. We're doing the original Friday the 13th from 1980. And you know what's interesting about this? It opened on, or actually it takes place on June 13th, 1980, which last Friday was June 13th. So it's kind of cool that the dates correlate, even though we're a few years off and we're a week late with the podcast.
45-year difference, but
Good
yeah,
Lord.
it's still one of my favorites too. However, in true fashion, I do have to represent Nightmare on Elm Street, so we can continue to have the Freddy versus Jason continuum throughout our lives.
Absolutely.
You know?
So this is my favorite horror franchise. Michael's is Scream. What is your is Nightmare your favorite franchise?
Nightmare is definitely my favorite.
That's a good one to have. That is definitely a good one to have. So welcome, Shay Astor. And again, Friday the 13th, we're going to get into that film here in just a bit. Also, our scare preview. Shay and I both have a couple of films that we want to tell you about that we're excited about coming out here in the near future. Welcome all of our new listeners to the Opening Kill podcast. Great to have you along. Thank you for subscribing. And I got to tell you, I watched a movie that has been done a couple of times. I watched this about a week ago. It is the 2024 version of Salem's Lot. Have you seen this one, Shay?
Not yet. I've only seen the original.
Okay, so, you know, this is Lewis Pullman, Bill Pullman's son, who looks just like him. It's unbelievable, the resemblance here. So if you're not familiar with Salem's Lot, this is based on a Stephen King novel, and author Ben Mears returns to his hometown of Jerusalem's Lot, Maine, in 1975, seeking inspiration for his next novel. He gets home, discovers that there is a sinister presence in town. Antique shop owners Richard Straker and the vampire Kurt Barlow, they are preying on locals, and as the townspeople, including children, begin to disappear or turn into vampires, Ben joins forces with some of the locals to try and figure things out. This kind of got mixed reviews. I actually really liked this version of it. I've seen the other versions. There was a version with Rob Lowe. There was the
Mhm.
original version that came out. I thought this one was really good.
Okay, that's coming to high praise. I'm impressed. All
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. So, yeah, Salem's Lot from 2024, just a year old.
Wow, I'll have to go see it then,
Yeah.
because you know me, I love me some vampires.
You do. You are you and I are both huge vampire fans. And so I think that is my favorite horror subgenre is vampires. And yours too, I think.
It is.
Yeah.
Speaking of vampires,
Yes.
imagine 1932, Mississippi, Michael B. Jordan playing dual roles as twin brothers who come back to their hometown after stealing money from and working with the Chicago group with Capone.
Mhm.
Um, Sinners is what my movie of choice is.
Oh, man.
You still haven't seen it yet, right?
No, this was so here's the very, very sad thing about this. This was my scare preview from like February, and now it's out of theaters, so now I gotta stream it. I feel totally embarrassed that I did not go to get to see this in theaters because it did very well. But I'm very curious to hear your take on this film.
Okay, so the movie touches on race, on spiritual freedom,
Mhm.
the sins of life.
Okay.
Ain't that the truth?
Yeah.
Um, I I was a little disappointed.
Oh.
I really wanted to like it. I
Okay.
did. I think the movie was a little overhyped though. Like it had everything going for it.
Sure.
Um, it's an original story. I love that. It was directed, written, and produced by Ryan Coogler.
Mhm.
I thought that was really we always love a triple threat. I mean, that's always
Absolutely. Yeah.
impressive.
Yeah.
But it's an original story, does not use original tropes of any sort though, which is fine. That's not a bad thing. It's kind of hard to be original in Hollywood nowadays. I get it. I thought I would love it. It has historical fiction, which is one of my other favorite genres. It uses the past to comment on the present. Always great to see. Blues music, I love it. Vampires, my
Yeah.
favorite. But yeah, the problem is it just got overhyped beforehand. It has great reviews.
Mhm.
So I had very high expectations.
Okay.
I wanted more. The effects were good, but not good enough. The story was good, but I wanted more. Like it didn't explain everything.
Mm.
There's a moment, this is not a spoiler. It happens very early on. Y'all know it's about vampires, so shush. The dude that's obviously gonna be the main bad guy is running up to this house, being chased by Native Americans, because they know what he is. So he's
Sure.
obviously not good. Uh, then they literally fuck off. The Native Americans just leave, and they're never brought up again. And I was
Oh,
kind of like, "Why?"
yeah. That's kind of odd.
And we don't get, like, a backstory, and I understand this is a great opportunity for them to make another movie because we always need to make more movies, more money,
Oh,
but
absolutely. A sequel. That's fantastic. Yeah.
yeah, and, like, I loved the music was the best part in my opinion.
Okay.
The effects were good. Like I said, the deaths were so quick that
Mhm.
you didn't get to see it very much.
Okay.
And you know me, I love my effects, so I don't know. I did, however, watch this movie without my husband, so I am in trouble and,
Uh-oh. Oh,
will
well,
be
now he
watching it again.
knows, right? So,
Yeah, no, he already knows. But I will be watching it again, and I
okay.
do think I might get more out of it the second time.
Okay.
So I do think, like, come back to me maybe next week and I might have a different opinion. But right now, I'm a little sad about it.
So, for those of you who don't know, Shay is one of the researchers on Opening Kill. She does a lot of work for the show. She is also a special effects makeup artist extraordinaire. She's done TV, film, and all kinds of things. She's worked on a couple of my short film projects. So, when it comes to special effects makeup, this girl knows her shit. I mean,
It's my jam.
that is your jam. I mean, you are so good at what you do. So, when it comes to these makeup effects, you would know better than anybody else what looks good, what doesn't, what's working, what's not. So it's great to have that perspective, on these movies that we do. So thank you for that.
Especially getting into these older movies, it's
Hmm.
so much fun to dig into like how they did it in the first place.
Right.
We're gonna learn from maybe the Friday the 13th movie. I love looking into how they did things, the mistakes they made, and
Hmm.
also how people grew, how the industry grew from it, how I personally also learned from it.
Okay.
Um, and I love analyzing that kind of stuff. So, in most of the podcasts that I'm helping with or talking on, I'm usually talking about the makeup effects. So,
Right, right. Exactly, exactly. So we've got some great things to talk about in Friday the 13th. And speaking of that, I do want to mention that Cameron Scoggins, Devin Kessler, and newcomer Gwendolyn Sandstrom have signed on as series regulars in the new series Crystal Lake, which, of course, is the highly anticipated Friday the 13th prequel from A24 and Peacock. Scoggins will step into the role of Dorf. Now, if you are a hardcore Friday the 13th fan like I am, you'll know that Dorf was the police officer originally portrayed by Ron Milkey in the original film, which we're going to talk about. Kessler takes on the role of Brianna Brooks, while Sundstrom will play Grace. They're going to be joining previously announced cast members Linda Cardinelli from Scooby-Doo and other things. Mrs. Voorhees is who she's going to be playing. William Catlett is also in this. This is going to be an 8-episode series. It's going to be helmed by really an impressive slate of directors, including Michael Lennox, who did Dairy Girls, Celine Held, and Logan George, as well as a few others here. Crystal Lake reimagines the origin of Mrs. Voorhees, a former singer who gave up her career to care for her special needs son. And after his tragic death, she spirals into darkness, setting the stage for the infamous legacy of Jason Voorhees. And showrunner Brad Caleb Kane teased that Scoggins is just one of many legacy characters from the original film to appear in the series. Production is ramping up, and more casting news is expected soon. So we've been hearing about Crystal Lake for a long time. They've had a lot of bumps in the road. And so I'm hoping that they have it all together and this will actually be a real thing. There have also been rumors about Adrienne King, who was the final girl, making some kind of an appearance in Crystal Lake. Adrienne King, of course, lives here in Southern Oregon. And for a while, she was peddling her own line of Crystal Lake wines at a local winery, which is great. So, yeah, I'm really excited about that. Hopefully that it finally comes to fruition and we see, Crystal Lake on Peacock sometime in the near future.
I'm excited about that. I really actually enjoyed, I'm not sure if you ever watched The Bates Motel.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I
It
did.
kind of reminds me of that, of dropping some lore, giving some
Mhm.
backstory to something we haven't seen, which is our OG killers, like, backstory. I think
Right?
it's a good idea. I have some news too. I know you and I both are pretty big Stephen King fans,
Mm-hmm.
if done correctly.
Correct.
So Carrie is getting another adaptation into an 8-episode Prime Video series. Not only has it been recently greenlit, but it's also starting filming at the end of June this month, which is pretty cool.
Oh,
There's
nice.
no news yet, though, on when it will debut, but hopefully in the near future.
Love that.
Um, Me too. Mike Flanagan is the director. He did Doctor Sleep, The Haunting of Hill House, etc., and my personal favorite, Oculus.
Oof, yeah.
Um, and then actor Matthew Lillard, funny enough, from Scream, from Scooby Doo, and recently Five Nights at Freddy's. I love them both so much. I
Oh,
think
yeah.
they can do this.
Yep.
I am a big fan of the 1976 original Carrie. I never
Mm-hmm.
saw the TV movie from 2002, and I was not a huge fan of the 2013 remake. So
Yeah, I agree. The remake was interesting, but the original for me, I thought was really well done. All right, well, let's get into Friday the 13th from 1980. Just the facts, written by Victor Miller, directed by Sean S. Cunningham. Effects by, I know, one of your favorites, Shay, Tom Savini.
my boy.
Oh, boy. And he actually had a cameo in this. His hands were a cameo. They actually used his hands as the killer's hands in this, uncredited, of course. But the movie stars Betsy Palmer, Adrienne King, Kevin Bacon in one of his very early roles, Harry Crosby, who is the son of legendary actor and singer Bing Crosby as well, Movie was released May 8th, 1980. Worldwide, it made $60 million at the box office. It was made for about $500,000. This was actually the first independent film of its kind to secure distribution in the U.S. by a major studio. They started filming September 4th, 1979, wrapped up about a month later. This was shot in New Jersey in the towns of Blairstown, Hope, Freehold, and Hardwick Township. Camp Nobi Bosco in Blairstown is the setting for Camp Crystal Lake, and that's an acronym for North Berggren Boy Scouts. Still an active Scouts camp today. It's also a huge tourist attraction. I'm going to give a big shout out to this company that does the tours. If you go to crystallaketours.com, you can check out all the tours that they do. They actually, Shay, have an overnight tour, an overnight experience. You have to be 21 to do this. It includes dinner, a full tour of the campground and the lake, a screening of the movie, a big campfire, sit around, an overnight stay in one of the movie cabins, breakfast, and more. They've only done this experience 6 previous weekends during the entire history of the tours. So, I mean, I can't do it this year, but if they do that next year, I'm definitely on board for that. That would be so much fun. You want to go?
When are we going?
Yeah, tell Parker, let's go. We're all gonna carpool and head out to New Jersey and do this.
He's also on the Friday train.
Nice.
I'm the Freddy. He's the Jason.
Yep.
You're a Jason.
Yep.
Michael can still say Ghostface. That's fine. He'll still enjoy it.
He could still go with us too, because I think he would enjoy it as well. Yeah. Yeah. The movie has a runtime of 95 minutes, so about an hour and a half. In 1957, a young boy named Jason drowns in a lake near Camp Crystal Lake. The next year, 2 counselors are murdered. In 1980, a descendant of the original owners reopens Camp Crystal Lake with some counselors' help, and the counselors get picked off one by one. Could it be Jason out for revenge or not? Well, you're going to find out. There's a big twist in this film. So I give this thing credit for really giving birth to a legend in the form of Jason Voorhees, even though he's not really a huge part of this original film. He becomes the franchise after this film. So, yeah. So we opened in 1958 at Camp Crystal Lake. 2 counselors by the name of Barry and Claudette are sitting around the campfire, doing this little sing-along, and they decide to sneak off for a little romantic rendezvous in a cabin loft. And they're starting to get busy, and a mysterious figure approaches, and the couple recognizes the killer, and the name of, the counselor happens to be Barry, played by Willie Adams, who sadly died about 12 or 13 years after this film was made. But he's talking to the killer and trying to play it off like, oh, we're not doing anything. Really, we're not. And but of course, we get this.
The opening kill.
Poor Barry just gets knifed by this mysterious killer.
Not even 5 minutes into the movie.
No, in fact, it is 4 minutes and 37 seconds if you want to actually, add this to your scorecard. 4 minutes, 37 seconds. He is stabbed. And within just moments after that, his girlfriend, Claudette, played by Deborah S. Hayes, who, by the way, is the first female killed in the Friday the 13th franchise, gets knifed as well. Although we don't actually get to see her death, because as the killer comes at her, it freezes and the title Friday the 13th explodes onto the screen, and we get the iconic music motif that comes in. But Claudette, poor Claudette, is kill number 2. So
it is crazy how these two they start off such a humongous franchise.
Yes. Yeah. So I will give this a butcher knife because it is the opening kill of my favorite Friday the 13th film. And Yeah, that's just all there is to it. I'm obviously biased here, but I know it's not the most exciting kill, but it starts a whole lot of things here with this franchise.
Being the technical person I am,
Of course.
it's going to be a butter knife for me, dog.
I knew it would be.
We know each other too well.
We really do. We've known each other way too long. Am I the one that actually got you hooked on horror films, or were you already into that genre before you and I met?
I was kind of like you. I started watching horror movies a little too early.
Okay. Yeah.
Like I was 7 when I saw
man.
good old Ghost Ship.
Oh, wow. That is
Yep.
a great film. We should do that one on here.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll add that to the list.
Add that to our list.
I got hooked pretty early on though because actually even earlier than that, my neighbor showed me movies like The Mummy and Ghost in the Darkness, which had just like very violent themes.
Mm-hmm.
And he would just tell me that it's ketchup and that it's salsa that's coming out of their bodies.
Oh my God.
And telling me how they were like, it's fake. And I was so interested already. So I think that was the birth of my career, honestly.
Okay.
But I do when we started watching our movie marathons,
Right.
you really turned me on to more of the big classics. So
I
you can
was
have
able,
that title.
I was able to enhance your horror film experience at least a little bit.
Yes.
Okay. Well, good. I feel good about that. So that first kill takes place, in 1958. So we're going to flash forward now to 1980. And I mentioned this earlier, June 13th, 1980, which was last Friday. Last Friday was June 13th, which is incredible. And now we get to the character of Annie. And Annie is played by the actress Robbie Morgan. And she's a young cook that was hired for the reopening of Camp Crystal Lake. She arrives in a nearby town. Locals are very wary of her. She goes into this diner and she asks for directions to Camp Crystal Lake. They look at her like she's nuts. And they're like, what, Camp Blood? You don't want to go there. And she's like, what do you mean Camp Blood? So this is like, for her, she's like, I don't know what you guys are talking about. So despite the warning, she hitches a ride to the camp. Her driver is pretty friendly and he drops her off. He doesn't go all the way to Camp Crystal Lake, drops her off. And then she gets picked up by somebody in a Jeep.
Before she gets in the car,
Yes,
with the very nice trucker, an old, very scary looking man named Crazy Ralph.
Yes.
What a name.
Yep.
Comes up and warns her to not go because of the dangers of Camp Blood, what a great name.
Right.
And that she will die if she goes. And everybody just goes, Crazy Ralph.
Yeah.
And they blow him off and she moves along her way.
I love Crazy Ralph.
I wish more people listened to Crazy Ralph. Maybe he's not so crazy, but here we are.
Here we are. So this truck driver drops her off. And it's very cool. I think this is in Hope, New Jersey, where you see the cemetery, the Hope Cemetery in New Jersey, which is a real thing. And definitely one of the places I want to go see when I go out there to do this tour. And hopefully you guys come with me. That'd be great to get a group from Opening Kill to go out there. So she is walking towards the camp and this Jeep comes down the road. She's hitchhiking. And whoever is driving the Jeep, we never get to see who it is, picks her up, and they keep going. And she's just a chatty Kathy. She won't shut up.
She's so cute.
She is.
My gosh.
She really is. And all the time she's in the Jeep, we never hear the driver speak. We never see the driver, so we don't know who the driver is. And pretty soon, the driver goes right past Camp Crystal Lake, and she notices. And Annie's like, wait a minute, wasn't that the camp back there? Shouldn't we turn around? Well, instead of turning around, the driver of the Jeep, who we still don't know who it is, steps on the gas and they start going faster. And Annie then realizes something's definitely not right. And she leaps out of the moving Jeep and injures herself, obviously. She's got a little bit of a limp now, and she takes off into the forest because we're out in the middle of nowhere, really. And so she's running, and whoever was in the Jeep parks it, gets out, and now is chasing her through the forest.
I do love the effect of using the camera like we are the killer,
Yep.
pretty much.
Yeah.
Which is an effect that is used, of course, much more in later movies, but this was one of the first ones where it was used very well, in my opinion.
I agree. I do agree. Seeing that perspective is chilling. And so Annie, she's running through the forest and she's limping. She can't move very fast. And the driver of the Jeep is chasing her, finally catches up to her, and Annie gets her throat slashed right there in the woods for kill number 3. So poor Annie. Nice girl. Didn't deserve to end that way, but she did. And that's that. I mean, what do you say about it?
Anyway.
Right? Anyway. So now we're going to move on to Camp Crystal Lake, where we find Steve Christie. He's the camp owner. And he's basically, renovating this campground. And the other counselors arrive. We have Alice, who is played by the wonderful Adrienne King. We also have Bill, who is played by Harry Crosby. We have Jack, who is Kevin Bacon. We have Marcy, and Marcy is played by Janine Taylor. Ned, who is played by Mark Nelson. And Brenda, who is played by Lori Bartram. And they're all going to be doing odd jobs. In fact, as soon as they pull up, Mr. Christie is like, hey, come over here and give me a hand. Help me, upend this tree that I'm trying to chop down with my axe or whatever he's doing. And so they get out, and then he introduces themselves. He kind of acts like a dick at the beginning, but then he kind of lightens up a little bit. And he's got this thing going on with Alice, who is already there. And there's a scene where she's up on a ladder cleaning out the gutters of this cabin or whatever. And he's totally coming on to her. And apparently they were an item before and they broke up, and he wants her. It's kind of, they never really clarify what their relationship is, but it's pretty clear that he wants to be more than just friends here. So, yeah.
The main point is he convinces Alice to stay a little longer because she was planning to leave.
True.
So she says she'll stay an extra week to help him, and maybe they can fix their relationship in that time, and maybe not. Who knows?
Who knows? That's right. There's a lot of different camera angles here that kind of suggest somebody is watching these folks through the trees from the woods. And, we have a scene where Steve actually leaves. He's going to go to town and leaves the counselors there. And that's where all the fun actually begins here. And there's a scene here where they're out on the dock and one of them is swimming and he fakes that he's drowning. So they pull him out. And his only goal is for one of the girls to start giving him mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. And then as soon as she does, he wraps his arm around her and pulls her closer. And she gets a little upset with him at that. All right. So Ned is the prankster of all of these counselors. He's, pulling pranks on everybody and trying to be the jokester. And he's out wandering around and he, sees a figure entering a cabin on the lake here. And so he basically goes into the cabin to find out what's going on. And that's the last we see of him at this point. Then we have Jack and Marcy who are hooking up, and they sneak away to, make love in this cabin. And we get into some cool kills here. Now, Ned is actually the next kill. We don't see this actually happen. We discover him here in the cabin where Jack and Marcy are hooking up. And it's a very cool scene because after they have sex, Jack lies back And Marcy gets up to go use the restroom or do whatever she's going to do. And all of a sudden, the camera pans up to the bunk right above Jack. And that's when we see Ned's body. And he's been killed by whoever it is that's killing people. And Jack lies back. And then one of the coolest kills ever, he gets stabbed with an arrow from underneath the bed. It comes up and it comes through the front of his throat. This is an iconic Tom Savini special effects kill.
I have many thoughts on this one.
I would love to hear that.
So, yes, this is an incredible kill. To do this shot, you have to for one, everyone should see this movie. If you haven't, come on, son, what are you doing? But the cots that they're all, having their fun with and laying on throughout the entire movie, they're small. I want you to imagine that. They're tiny cots.
Right.
I want you to also imagine that there are 4 people underneath this cot to get this shot of
Really?
the arrow going through Kevin Bacon's neck.
Oh my God.
So we have Kevin Bacon's head, and there's like a cutout. So only his real head is popping up through the bed.
Okay.
And the rest of his body underneath the cot in a very uncomfortable
I
situation.
would think so. Yeah. Oh my God.
We have good old Tom Savini down there in charge of shoving the arrow through the neck at this point, because he is also kind of a stunt and weapons guy.
Mm-hmm.
So he was in charge of shoving the arrow up through the fake neck. They only have one fake neck. So this is also important.
Oh, only
Always
one.
make 2 fake necks.
Oh God. So you don't get it right the first time, you're screwed.
Exactly. Here we
Okay.
go. We have his lovely assistant who does a lot of the horror conventions as well. His name is Tazo Stravakis.
Mm-hmm.
He's in charge of the blood pump that's going to be shooting out blood through the arrow hole, causing such a scene in this movie.
Right.
And you and I both have had issues with blood pumps in the past.
Yes.
And
Oh,
fake
God.
blood.
Oh my God. What was the film we did where it just was not? Oh, it was Unlucky 13, a film that it's still in production somewhere, but you were pumping the blood and it just was not working the way we wanted it to. I forgot about that.
Blood pumps are the bane of my existence, so I understand this part fully.
Yep.
So we got Tazo underneath the bed as well. That's 3 people. And then we have, I believe he was just a camera crew. I'm sorry, I don't know his name.
Mm-hmm.
But for this shot, he was the hands for this one, where a hand comes out and grabs Kevin Bacon's forehead and holds him down.
Right.
So there are 4 people underneath this tiny cot. And as they do the shot, they only have one chance. The blood pump disconnects from the damn pump part.
Of course it does.
So you'll watch in the movie, the blood just kind of piddles out a little bit.
Yep.
So Tazo grabs the pump. It has blood in the tubing part of it. He grabs it and puts his mouth to it and just blows really hard. And it makes this beautiful spurting of blood that's just gushing.
God. That's amazing.
And it was glorious.
Yeah.
But also it could have gone so terribly wrong.
Oh my God. That is hilarious. Yeah.
However, it created such a great kill.
Well, and as you said, yeah, those cots, those bunk beds, they're tiny. They're not very big. And to squeeze 4 people. And poor Kevin Bacon, yeah, you look at it now and you realize that's just his head and the rest of his body is underneath it. That would not have been comfortable for anybody.
No. Poor Bacon.
Poor Bacon. Okay, so he dies, and Jack is kill number 5. Marcy is next, kill number 6, and pretty straightforward kill with her. She gets axed in the face, and that's pretty much, the end. So
Anyway,
poor Marcy. That's the end of her.
I think the funniest thing and why we laugh about it now is because we don't truly care about these young kids quite yet.
Not yet.
They're having fun.
Yeah.
They're just getting set up. They have no great redeemable qualities. other than Alice is definitely, she's a good girl. She's
Mhm.
got the best pair of jeans. I want her jeans in this movie. Oh my
Right. Oh,
god.
yeah. Yeah.
She she's like the nice one. We care about her, but none of
Mhm.
the other ones. So they're off having sex when they should be working. They're sneaking off when they should be working, or not splitting up during a storm, that kind of stuff. So it's okay when they die. So that's why it's funny where they're like, they get an axe in the face.
I
Anyway.
mean, you want your audience to be invested in these characters and care about them, but you really don't. You don't care about them that much in this for the most part. So, yeah, so there we go. I mean, you've got Jack who gets stabbed with the arrow. You've got Marcy with the axe to the face. That night, Brenda, and Brenda is played by Laurie Bartram. She hears a child's voice calling, "Help me." And she rushes out into this storm toward the archery range. Now, here's the deal. We're in the middle of a huge storm, and she's by herself, and she's just going to rush out there. It's kind of like, wouldn't you want to take somebody with you for support? I mean, they make really all the wrong decisions in this movie on how to do this.
You learn in Girl Scout camp, Boy Scout camp, any camp you go with a buddy.
Yep.
That's the rule. And they didn't, so that's why they die. There we go.
Never split up. And you see this in just about every horror film, every buddy, unquote, quote unquote, a buddy horror film where you've got a group of friends. They always split up, and this is what always happens. But I think this is one of the first films that really does this and introduces us to that whole subgenre of horror. I mean, it's really, there was Halloween before this, and this was definitely inspired by Halloween, but this kind of is a different thing. So, yeah. So Brenda goes out there, and the lights flash in the camp, and we cut away. We don't see anything. She does get killed, and she is kill number 7. We don't see it. It's off screen, but her body is later thrown through a window. And it's kind of a weird thing because there's rope tied around her. There's no explanation of the rope. It's just kind of there, like she's tied up, and I don't know. It's weird because she obviously was not strangled. The rope had nothing to do with her death. She was obviously stabbed and cut up and everything. But there's the rope. And I've never really been able to explain the rope other than, it's just around her and it looks cool. So that's it.
My theory is that she was hung somewhere, all cut up and bloody.
Okay.
But then nobody went to go find her.
Right.
So then the killer decided, I'm gonna cut her down from wherever she was hanging,
Mm-hmm.
and just throw her through the window because you took too long trying to find your friend. So
Right.
that's what I think. Because the whole point is the scare factor, of course. Also, we must talk about the fact that they're playing Strip Monopoly. That's a terrible game.
Oh my
It would
God.
take so long.
Yeah.
Why?
The game is long enough anyway. If you want to see somebody naked, don't play Strip Monopoly. Come
Oh,
on.
you'd freeze your butt off too. They're in the middle of a storm.
Well, that's true. And I can't imagine the heating is that great in these cabins. It doesn't appear to be. So I don't know. And got to mention too, Steve Christie, the owner of the camp, he's gone. He went to town and he ends up at this cafe with this very bizarre waitress who I don't even know what to make of her, but she kind of flirts with him. And I don't know. It's a very, I don't know if she was really an actress or not because the acting was not fantastic from her. And so he's there and goes back out to his Jeep to go back to the camp. And the Jeep breaks down and a police officer rolls up on him and offers to give him a ride back to the camp. So he takes him up on that. They get to the camp before the officer is called away. There's a car accident or something, so he's got to go. Drops off Steve at the camp. And yeah, so that's kind of where we go next. In the meantime, Alice finds Brenda's body, which has been I guess, shot up with arrows and or cut up, stabbed, cut up, whatever. And she finds that and freaks out as Steve gets back to the camp. But then the Jeep that we saw in the beginning of the film also pulls up as Steve is walking up the driveway to the camp, and he briefly recognizes the killer. And he's like, "Hey, what are you doing out here?" And before he can say anything else, he gets stabbed and killed. And that's it for Steve, kill number 8.
They do realize that a lot of their friends are missing at this point. So Alice and Bill decide to go out into the storm and look for them. Buddy system. Look at that. Funny how that works.
Yeah.
And they can't find anybody. No one is there.
I would be hiking out of there at this point. You're there with all of your friends. There's like 5 of them in total, 6, whatever. They're all gone. And I know I would be leaving. I would not be staying at this campground by this lake in the middle of this storm.
Yeah, exactly. You don't know the area. You have nobody else. Steve's gone. He also took the car.
Yeah,
so
he did. Phones are
kind of a
out.
jerk
You
move.
can't call anybody. Phone lines are dead. And there's no communication out of this camp now. So yeah, no, I agree.
How would you leave, Brian, if the car's gone?
Oh, I'd just be running my ass off, getting the hell out of there. I would not be staying here. Because at one point...
When we go to visit,
they do.
We're going to do that. I'm going to make you run out of there.
I'm sure you will, too. But they even find, they go into one of the cabins and they find, one of the bunks. It's covered in blood. There's an axe. It's like, why are you staying here? Get out. This is, you don't want to stay here. But yeah, so
unfortunately, they do sadly split up. Bill leaves, and that's where their problems start again.
Yeah, you could say
of course, because you split up, dummies.
Well, Bill is the next kill, and it's not pleasant. None of these kills are really pleasant, but Bill gets shot multiple times with arrows, and he's actually pinned to a door, one of the outbuilding doors. And I don't know, I didn't even count how many arrows, but there's a bunch that's in him. So
I have another funny story about that one.
Yeah.
So we know, in general, there's safe to use blood and there's not so safe to use blood, especially in the 80s.
Oh, no.
Toxic chemicals are meant for like the clothes or anything below the chin.
Right.
The blood that goes on your face, near your eyes, near your mouth, needs to be edible of sorts.
Sure.
Tom Savini unfortunately didn't like how it looked on camera. I totally understand that, though. If it doesn't look good, why do it?
Yeah.
So he thought, well, with Bill, he's got a prosthetic over his eye where an arrow is shooting through it. It's protected, so I can put the not safe but good looking blood on it. Unfortunately, the blood pooled up behind the prosthetic and is getting into very famous. He was the most famous actually on this set, was Harry Crosby. It's pooling up in his eyeball, and they got the shot. And listen, it's a great shot.
Sure.
But as soon as the shot was done, he had to be rushed to the hospital to make sure he wasn't blind.
Oh, damn.
Thankfully, they did save his eye. It was all fine. Just had to flush it out a lot. But still, it is also a learning lesson that I took and I never repeated, because unfortunately, yeah, the not safe blood is poisonous.
Sure.
So, there you go.
Oh, man. I can't even imagine what that would have been like. No, I know you might lose your eye, but just hang on. We got to get this shot. Stay right where you are. Don't move. Great. So Bill is kill number 9. And then we get kind of to the climax of this movie. We have Pamela Voorhees, who shows up. She claims to be an old friend of the Christies. And she's very normal, very calm at first. And Alice sees her show up and she goes running up to her, gives her a big hug. And Alice is obviously hysterical, saying, all of my friends are dead. And Pamela's trying to calm her down. And, and then they go inside and Pamela begins to unravel a little bit and begins to tell the story of her son, Jason, who drowned back in 1957 because the counselors were too busy having sex with each other and not paying attention or whatever it was. And so poor little Jason, who was kind of a special needs kid from what we gather and was definitely not a swimmer, is out there in the middle of the lake and he drowns. And she's blamed the counselors all of these years, totally opposed to Steve Christie reopening Camp Blood, a.k.a. Camp Crystal Lake. And as we get into this scene, Alice starts to realize that this woman is crazy and she is the one responsible for killing all of these counselors and all these people.
It's funny looking at this woman and thinking that she's the one shooting people with arrows, tying them up, hitting them with machetes and axes, because she looks so like innocent and small.
Yeah, she
But
does.
we know the love of moms
Yeah.
can do powerful things.
Yep, absolutely.
But also, girl, if your kid can't swim, why are you sending him to a camp with a big ass lake in front of it?
Yeah, exactly.
I
So-
don't know.
Betsy Palmer was a classically trained actress. She was in a lot of very high-profile films early in her career. Award-winning films, and a lot of other actresses were offered this role before her, including Sally Field and several other big names. They all turned it down. Estelle Getty was one who was offered this role, but her agent said, no way, this is too violent. We don't know what this is going to be. The only reason Betsy Palmer accepted this role was because she wanted to buy a new car, and the money she was going to get from this would enable her to do this. But when she read the script, she said, this movie is a piece of shit. Nobody's going to watch it. And that's one of the reasons she did it, because she didn't think anybody was going to watch it. Little did she know this was going to turn out to be probably the biggest or one of the biggest horror film franchises in the history of horror films. And she would go to conventions even after the success, and she would tell that story and people would laugh at her. And you and I were talking that she was there at one of these conventions with the producer, and she was talking about what a piece of shit she thought it was. And it was very awkward because you can see he's sitting right next to her and he's kind of got this half grin on his face like, oh God, I mean, that's kind of funny, but fuck you for,
Also,
you know.
yeah, you don't say that to the people that wrote the damn movie.
No, you don't. But she didn't give a damn, and she did. So I thought that was very funny. I thought she was very good in this. I thought she was cast appropriately in this as Mrs. Voorhees. But yeah, it's kind of funny. So she basically goes into this game of cat and mouse with Alice, chasing her around through the cabin. And at one point, Alice actually picks up a frying pan and just whacks her with it, which is kind of funny. You think that might be the end, but oh no, that's not what happens. She runs outside and Pamela Voorhees awakens from being hit with the frying pan, chases her out there, and she's got a machete, and they struggle on the lake shore. And Alice is able to wrestle away the machete. And then we get the final kill of this film when Alice decapitates Pamela Voorhees. And that's that.
Great shot.
It is. It really is a great shot.
Right after she cuts off the head, she decides, I think in shock, probably. That's what I would be in.
Right.
She sees the boat. It's like a canoe.
Yeah.
And just gets in it into the
Right.
middle of the lake.
Yep.
And stays there until the police get there in the morning.
Yeah. And how do they know to get there? Who called them? That's never
don't
made clear
know.
either. But
Maybe they saw Steve's body, like his was probably closer to the road.
yeah. Well, they
I
do
don't
show up,
know.
and it's, and it's just one car that shows up, and then they find all of these dead bodies all over the camp. And then there's Alice out in the middle of the lake. Yeah.
A girl's got to do what a girl's got to do.
Absolutely. But she is one of the most iconic final girls in horror, along with Jamie Lee Curtis from Halloween. And so, we cut to this scene of her in the lake, and there's this very cheesy, peaceful music that's playing in the background. And suddenly Jason's decomposed childlike body rises out of the water. Launches out of the water, grabs her around the neck, and she wakes up in the hospital. And apparently that was just a dream. By the way, Ari Lehman plays that boy, Jason, and he has definitely made a very good living out of being that character. He's in it for like 10 seconds, and he's all over the convention circuit, and he's got his own band, and he's done a lot of cool things with it, taking advantage of it, as you should.
Get your bag.
Absolutely. So she wakes up screaming in the hospital. The boy, is he dead? And the cop responds, "What are you talking about? There was no boy." Yeah, I know. So, and
Then it ends with, "So he's still there."
Yeah. Even though Jason Voorhees was not the killer in this first one, it gave birth to Jason. And then we went on to do, all these other films. And, you and I have talked about this over the years a lot. There are some good ones in this series. If you look at the first 8 films, there's some good ones, but there are also some ones that are just silly. Even the title of Jason Takes Manhattan makes me laugh. And I know they had to kind of, shake things up a little bit so it's different, but that one was a little far-fetched.
Yeah. Yeah, Jason going to space and Jason X.
Okay, that one was even worse, I think, in my opinion.
They're all a little goofy. But okay, if you had to rank, you have to pick 3 movies that include Jason or, Friday the 13th title.
Yeah.
What 3 are you picking as the 3 you watch?
So even though he only is in it for like I said, 10 seconds, the first one, which really gets the ball rolling.
Yep.
The one, its final chapter with Corey Feldman is in that one.
Yep.
And I thought that was really good. And actually, Freddy versus Jason was pretty good too. I did like the crossover there.
You stole my answers.
Oh, we got the same one? Imagine that.
Yeah, it's 1-4 in Freddy versus Jason.
Yeah, I'm not saying the other ones were absolutely terrible, but again, they just didn't live up to the standard, in my opinion, of the first one. But yeah, they're fun. I will still go through and binge watch, all of the movies every so often, and and everything else. But I think the first one is my favorite. It kicks off the entire franchise. And again, it gives birth to Jason Voorhees, even though he's not really in the first one. So, yeah.
I did think it was interesting that the writer, some of the writers have come out saying they didn't like the direction that the franchise went in, specifically with the second one talking about Jason being the villain. He wasn't the villain. He was the victim.
Right.
And I understand that, it definitely was his mother that was the villain in the first one.
Oh,
but
sure.
She's dead now, so what do you want us to do next?
Exactly. Final kill count, 10. My favorite character was Alice, I think, in this. Favorite kill was definitely Kevin Bacon's kill. I thought that was super cool. Least favorite scene was the cafe scene where Steve Christie is sitting there talking to the waitress. That was just kind of weird, and I know they needed to show where he was at, but awkward because I didn't think the acting was very good, and I don't think he was a very good actor either, to be honest. And you put the two of those characters together, and it was just like, we probably could have lost that scene. Our friends, who do the podcast, How Do You Watch This? They have a segment where they do a deleted scene. What scene would you delete from the movie? I would say that would be the one I would delete if we did that. I would delete that scene. It just really, or done it differently. It was just very awkward. Favorite scene for me was probably Mrs. Voorhees getting decapitated. That whole fight scene at the end was pretty cool. And as far as the star grade, I give it a 5. Didn't stay 5 stars after this movie, but I think the original, it was inspired by Halloween, obviously, but more focused on the shock and the gore. And I thought they did a good job with it. So, yeah.
Well, unfortunately, mine are all pretty much the same exact answers.
Yeah.
However, I will have some honorable mentions.
Okay.
They have some great build-up scenes with Alice as she's going through the kitchen, and this would count as like one of my favorite scenes.
Mm-hmm.
She's going through the kitchen, and there's tense music playing, and they have those great setup shots where you think someone's going to be standing behind her, or she opens the refrigerator door and closes it, and you think something's going to be there,
Right.
but they don't. They choose not to do it then.
Mm-hmm.
And she goes and sits down, and that's when the body comes flying through the window randomly.
Right.
And yes, it's a silly thing of why is the body tied up, but still.
Why? Yeah, exactly. Why is the body tied up? But okay.
But it was such a great, like, tense moment of buildup, and we're following her around so much that you're like, when's it gonna happen? When's it gonna happen? And then you finally think she's like, well, it's not gonna happen. And then, oh, yeah, no, it happens. And it kicks off pretty quick from there.
Yeah.
And it does start the incredible scenes going forward of the cat and mouse, and her finding the other dead bodies. Because so far they were all hidden from her and Bill when they like had been together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was incredible. I do think, yeah, Kevin Bacon's death is still gonna be my favorite, not only because it was fun to watch, but also fun to learn how they did it. I love learning
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. Yeah, I do think least favorite is gonna be just in general. Steve is just he didn't need to be there. He could have just left
Yeah.
and not come back. That would have been fine.
Yeah, I think I agree. Yeah.
Yeah, and I do think star grade is still it's gonna be a 5 for me too because
Mhm.
of how important it is, as
Mhm.
well as it's still fun to watch. I watch it every year.
Yeah. Yeah.
Especially around this time, it is fun. Whenever there's a Friday the 13th, I watch it. But even if there isn't, like we only have one this year, which is crazy.
Bummer. I know.
But having it in June also feels very fitting because it's
Mhm.
like a summer camp movie as well.
Yeah.
So I think I am gonna watch number 2 tonight, probably. And then 3 and 4 the next few days as well, just because they make me happy.
Yeah. And it's funny with this film because they really wanted to get bigger names. Adrienne King was saying she was definitely not their first choice. And they finally realized that even if they could get a known actress, they wouldn't be able to afford her. And so that's why they went with unknown actors. I mean, the budget, again, estimated to be between $550,000 and $650,000. That's all they had to make this movie. And they couldn't afford these big name actors. So, I mean, really, to get Betsy Palmer, who was a known entity at the time, it was kind of luck there. And I don't think she took a lot of money. I think she just wanted a gig and didn't think anybody would ever see it. But everybody else, I mean, Kevin Bacon, for God's sake, nobody knew who he was yet.
No, he'd just done Animal House
Mhm.
before then. That was it. And
Yeah.
then anyone, yeah, Harry Crosby was big just because of his dad, not
Right.
because of his work.
Right.
He didn't really stick to the acting thing either
Mm-mm.
for
Not
much
really. No.
longer.
No. So, and I also am adding something new, Shay, to the program this week. It is the slasher survival tip. Okay.
Ooh.
All right. Here's the deal. For this film, your slasher survival tip: never ignore the old guy on the bicycle yelling, "You're doomed." Because
I mean,
I mean, seriously, Okay, here's
That's so true.
It is so true. So something else new we're going to add into this, the final girl power ranking. And we're going to give Alice a 7 out of 10 because she's just a pan-wielding badass. I mean, seriously.
Honestly, if you handed me a pan,
You would hit me over the head with it and tell me to shut up?
Maybe.
Yeah.
But also if you handed me a machete, I don't know if I could log someone's head off, you know?
That's true.
But Alice is a good one.
Yeah.
She did, of course, make a few mistakes, so I think the rating is correct there.
Okay, good. So I'm justified with that rating.
I think so. I definitely think there are some great final girls out there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited to see what else we can what else we can find.
Well, we'll find out next week. Coming up, we have your scare preview. Shay and I each have a movie we're going to tell you about. First, make sure you check out Jaunty Hunts, a podcast all about the supernatural hosted by our friend Courtney, the self-proclaimed seer who, after 30 years of keeping it quiet, is finally sharing her secret with the world. She sees ghosts. Courtney is fascinating. And each episode, she dives into eerie encounters, true tales of the seen and unseen, and she welcomes guests to share their own experiences with the paranormal. It's spooky, it's funny, and it is incredibly relatable. So whether you're a skeptic or a believer, you will find something to love with Jaunty Hunts. And you can listen to that wherever you get your podcasts. You definitely do not want to miss it. All right, scare preview time. You have one you want to talk about, Shay.
The final installment of the Conjuring universe, The Conjuring Last Rites. Oh,
is it really the final, do you think? Or do you think
I don't know.
Okay.
I have thoughts. It is directed by Michael Chaves, who joined the franchise for Curse of La Llorona in 2019, Conjuring The Devil Made Me Do It in 2021, and he also did The Nun 2 in 2023. Thank goodness it's still being produced by the fantastic James Wan. If he was not involved, I would leave.
Right.
This film is bringing back, apparently for the last time, Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga as Ed and Lorraine Warren, the real-life paranormal investigators and controversial demonologists, taking on the famous case of the Smurl family haunting from 1986. It takes place 5 years after The Devil Made Me Do It, when the Warrens contemplate retiring from the demon hunting business. But when a desperate Pennsylvania couple reaches out for help with a violent presence hell-bent on destroying their family, they agree to lend their exorcism expertise one last time. The movie is set to premiere on September 5th, 2025. They finished filming back in November of 2024. The budget has been estimated at $75 million.
Oof.
Compared to the last one, which only had a budget of $39 million.
I was going to say,
a big jump.
That's a huge budget for a horror film.
It is. It's huge. I mean, they're going all out in theory for the last one.
Yeah, they are.
I mean,
okay.
Overall, the franchise has been, like, of course, commercially successful. I think, not including the numbers for The Last Rites, they've grossed $2.2 billion with a budget of $208 million.
That's a huge amount of money we're talking about.
They've done well.
Yeah.
I am sad. I'm sad because ever since the first Conjuring movie came out in, 2013, I've been hooked.
Oh, yeah.
I've been a diehard fan. I think you have too. Even the flops, I just recently completed a full Conjuring universe chronological order movie marathon. Even all of the Annabelles, which are not my favorite, but I still watch them anyway.
Sure.
I'm not saying they're all bangers, but they create such like a fantastic story, especially when you put them all together. The thing that makes me most sad is that we know that the original, the real life guys, Ed and Lorraine, they didn't retire in the 80s. They kept going until they died. I mean, Ed died in 2006 and Lorraine, sadly, in 2019. They kept going, and I'm pretty surprised that the film industry is not continuing and milking this anymore, if this
Right.
is going to be the end.
Yeah.
However, I don't want them to ruin it, because, you know, the longer that goes, sometimes it can
sure.
get bad. Maybe they're taking some notes from Friday the 13th.
I was just going to say, look at Friday the 13th. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So I do think, I mean, I have high hopes for this movie, of course, high expectations as well. The last one did not impress me as much as some of the others. But I also don't really love the source material. The Smurl family haunting is not my favorite story. You can go look it up yourselves, listeners, if you want to spoil it a little bit or know a little bit more, or if you want to get a little bit of a surprise, that's also okay. Of course, they take liberties. It's a movie.
Yeah, of course. They always do.
But I am excited. I can't wait for September. We have some great movies coming out in the fall in general, but this one has been on my list for a very long time.
So there was another movie coming out, and I actually talked about this a couple of months ago in our news segment. It's a movie called Keeper. This is Osgood Perkins' latest project. Comes out in October in Brazil. And then it will be released, I'm only assuming, in the US, because they released a teaser trailer for this, and it was buried at the very end of Osgood's movie, The Monkey, which came out earlier this year. So I'm assuming it'll be out everywhere. But it's a movie that it's about a couple, Liz and Malcolm. They travel to a secluded cabin for a romantic anniversary getaway. Malcolm unexpectedly has to go back to the city. He leaves Liz alone in the cabin, where she soon confronts a sinister presence. Again, directed by Osgood Perkins, written by Nick Leppard, who also wrote Dangerous Animals, which was my scare preview earlier this year and just came out, I think, last Friday. So again, the release date of this movie, Keepers, is October 3rd in Brazil. And then I can only assume it's going to come out. It's an English language film, so it'll be released here. We just don't know exactly when at this point, but look forward to that in the very near future. Keeper from Osgood Perkins.
I'm excited.
Me too. I love Osgood Perkins. I think he's just been on an incredible roll lately. I thought The Monkey was great. Long Legs was spectacular. Well, that is it for this week's episode of Opening Kill. Please leave us a 5-star rating or shout out to us on our socials at openingkillpod. Subscribe and like, all that good stuff. And thank you, Shay Astor, for sitting in and talking Friday the 13th with me. I know that these films we have watched together over the years, and it was really good having you here. And you'll be back next week as well for
I will.
our next film, which I'm really excited about. Very innovative movie. I loved this when it came out. We're going to be covering The Cabin in the Woods from 2011. What a great movie.
We have so much to talk about.
So much. And kind of like with previous movies, we're not going to include every single kill because there are way too many kills to count. So we'll go over the major ones, and that's kind of where we're going to have to end it. But yeah.
Well, we might need Michael to jump in if he has time to count all of the heads that explode like he did for his favorite Daybreakers.
Here we go. I knew you were going to bring Daybreakers into this.
I will forever bring Daybreakers into this. Every episode I'm on, Michael, you bet your butt.
Sorry, Michael. We are going to do The Lost Boys down the road here with Shay and Michael, and we'll demonstrate just what a real vampire movie should look like. So that'll be fun. That's coming up in the very near future. All right. Thanks for listening to Opening Kill. We will talk to you again next week with The Cabin in the Woods.
The Opening Kill podcast is hosted by Michael Duran and Brian O'Connor. It's produced by Mystic Cloud Productions. Thanks for listening. And don't forget to subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere you listen to your favorite podcasts. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram too. Join us next Thursday for a brand new episode.